Alright, so this is going to be part 7 to What If Deku Was a Hunter Guardian. So, with that being said, let's just roll the intro.
Bow in the presence of greatness. 'Cause right now that has forsaken us. You should be honored by my lateness. That I would even show up to this fake shit. So go ahead, go nuts, go.
Alright, so in the last part we had just gotten done with the Island incident in where the Hive had invaded and did a major battle there. We were also introduced to the Vex, who were fighting the Hive back on Mars, and we were left off with a mysterious message from an unknown species. After some time, Izanagi was able to decipher the message, and they had learned that this new species that we're talking to, Earth, was actually the Fallen, or I forgot the actual name of the species, but you know what I mean, the Fallen that you see in Destiny. Now, like in Destiny proper, they are, in search of the Traveler, because like how Earth is now, they were once visited by the Traveler and their world was enhanced, but then the darkness came and ruined it. But instead of being hostile like they were before, this is very early within the stage of the Fallen, so at this point they're not scavengers. And because of that, they're not pushed to that desperate point of violence. So in this case, they are allies to humanity instead of, foe. Now, before we continue any further, I'd say that this episode may be a bit darker than usual, so viewer discretion is advised. Now, with that being said, you have been warned. So this information gets relayed to All Might and those working at UA, as well as the governments around the world. And with this gives the opportunity for the governments of the world to ally with the Fallen and give them a fighting chance against the Hive. Now, it may not seem like it in game, but the Hive are depicted in the lore as monstrous and a plague on the universe, almost like the Flood from Halo, but not to that extent. But they are brutal, and they just infect an area basically, and they're super hard to get rid of. So with the world governments joining with the Fallen, there is some backlash, as not everyone's gonna accept aliens joining right away, and because of that, there is gonna be a kind of faction of humanity that doesn't want them to be here. I would see that this would be the most realistic standpoint, but yeah, you could tell me down below how you guys would feel if aliens came to Earth. But anyways, and it's similar to the way that how people were inspired by Stain. They would rally together and be almost like their own group or organization, if that makes sense. So with a large number of Fallen coming to Earth, they would have to be spread out through, Earth. And obviously one country would be Japan, and their location would be somewhere close to UA, because this is where all the kind of big hero organizations are at, so that they could have contact with them, so that they could help out if there are other Hive attacks. Now, because of this, and because of such a large population just coming to Earth, they would have to go to parts of cities that are less populated and probably less, developed, if that makes sense. And because of that, there is some disadvantages, and I'll talk about it when I get into the story a bit more. Now, for this episode, we're going to go off of a different perspective, that being that of Shinso instead of our regular Deku. So Shinso is going home, and in his way is the kind of less popular or populated districts, and there are many Fallen who have taken up residence there. As he's walking along, he kind of feels a bit uncomfortable seeing so many aliens. It's barely been a few days since their arrival, and even now he isn't too comfortable with them looking at him. But he has no time to really think about this when a rift within space and time open up, and this is where the hive come out. Now, this is also another planned attack, but this time the humans are ready for it. They have been stationed along different parts of the city, at least the more populated ones. This was one of the blind spots within the defense, because it had so little human, activity there, and because of the limited amount of people that are heroes for such a big attack, they decided to really, space out the heroes in this area. And because of that, Shinso is in quite a disaster, or a pickle, you could say. So a bunch of just hive come through, and they are just destroying things in their wake, and Shinso starts running, and he doesn't know where to go, and he's panicking, and he sees a family of fallen that let him go into their house to hide, and he follows them in, accepting the kindness that he was given. In there they have some safety, but it's not going to be anything long term. They see the destruction that the hive can do, and they could see from outside what they're doing. They're taking people and just murdering them on the streets. Now, this is a very important thing to the hive. I don't know if I explained it in other parts, but there's this specific piece of lore for the hive called sword logic. And basically, to sum it up, it's just that when the hives kill something, they eventually become stronger by doing so. The more they kill, the more that they become stronger, and this is the pact that they have with the worm gods that they have in their body. This is why things like thralls can evolve to be knights or ogres or things like that, and that's generally how it works. You guys can correct me if I'm wrong, but this is part of the hive's kind of plan to increase their strength. They go around destroying other civilizations to do so. Now, Shinso sees a target that he could go against. This is a hive captain, but not just a regular one. He is super large with a sword in his hand, just destroying buildings left and right by just cleaving his sword through them. And he can't wait for the heroes to get here, and he can't risk this family being exposed because of him, because these hive aren't really going for the fallen as much, but mostly for the humans. They don't really see fallen as a threat, so they're looking for any humans that would be in this area, because although it's a lot of fallen here, there's still a lot of humans, and therefore Shinso escapes through a back window and tries to leave. This causes some noise, him escaping, and this is where Shinso just tries to run for it. He is then cornered by the hive captain, or the hive knight, I should say. In his moments of struggle, he asks the hive knight why he's doing this and why is his just race coming to Earth to destroy us. And what Shinso hears, he can never forget. Shinso hears some sort of otherworldly kind of speech that he's never heard before, and this shakes him to his core, hearing what he said, but the gist of what he's hearing is to the effect of that whatever he is, whatever his existence is, doesn't matter, and that everything that he's been doing doesn't matter. Now, he doesn't actually understand what the hive knight is saying, but only can interpret this. The way that it's looking at him and the way his body language is what the only thing he can really interpret. And Shinso is just distraught by this, and as he's thinking of a way out, he realized that this monster answered one of his questions, and he activates his quirk, his mind control. Now this actually does take effect on the knight, and he's able to control him. He uses the knight to take out a lot of the thralls. Now the thralls are confused by the knight even going back towards them, and because of their low intelligence, they can't really distinguish why he's doing so. But before they can do anything, he starts just slaughtering them with his sword, back and forth, and as other thralls try to stop him, it doesn't work, as he's not even getting scratched by them. Now the thralls can understand that something's wrong, but they don't know exactly what or how this is being done. Shinso tries to leave the scene as more thrall comes by. Eventually, the knight hits a cursed thrall, causing him to take some damage, knocking him out of the mind control. Now, as Shinso is running, he's then blocked by another horde of thralls and acolytes, trying to shoot at him. Now the shots from their kind of void pistols actually do hit him slightly in the legs, causing him to kind of down himself, or kneel, as you will. Now the knight comes back to see a almost crippled Shinso. Shinso has no way of escaping this, and he's just looking at the captain, and the captain's actually happy for this. He's happy that he had an excuse to kill as many thralls as he had before. He almost thanks Shinso in his own language, and Shinso is disturbed by this even more. Why is he smiling, and why is he so happy for this? Because, you know, murdering your own kind is pretty common within the hive. I mean, I think there's even a story in where Oryx or Crota, I'm not sure which, just basically kept on killing like thousands and thousands of thralls just to become stronger. But anyways, the knight looks at Shinso and promises a quick death to him. And this is where the knight, just stabs him through the heart. Shinso closes his eyes as the life from him just seems to fade away, and the light around him also fades. The knight recalls his sword from his chest and wipes off the blood. He starts to walk away to find other humans when Endeavor shows up. After seeing the sight of what Shinso had become, he curses at himself, wishing that he was here sooner, and then proceeds to fight the entire horde that's there. His fire so hot, so vibrant, that it starts to just incinerate thralls just there, and the captain tries to swing at him, and Endeavor just cuts the blade in half using his own fiery lance. He pierces the knight and brings it over his head to slam him into the ground. He pierces the knight with his flame lance only to just slam him into the ground, confirming the kill. And this is when the paramedics come to help those that are injured. And he sees Shinso, and he sees him that he's a UA student. He gives him a prayer, and he's taken off. They put him in a body bag and take him to, I guess, the morgue or the hospital, I'm not sure which. But there in the ambulance, Shinso is having his own fight or journey, because what he sees now is this kind of landscape of just darkness and a sky that's purple. And what he's seeing right now is the void. It's so just, he can't really comprehend the size of this realm that he's in, and he doesn't know what to do, and he's somewhat scared from the unknowingness that he has right now. And he reaches out to grab the void, and this infuses into his body, and he wakes up after his wounds have healed, and something lies beneath him, and this is a ghost. He awakens and gets himself out of the body bag. The paramedics that were there are surprised, and they notice what he has, a ghost. He's been reborn as a guardian. Alright, so this is going to be the end of the video. I hope you guys like it. This one is a bit darker than my usual stuff, as well as, I guess, very different from my other kind of what ifs in terms of how the story is going. And that's what I'm trying to do with this particular series. And yeah, so if you like it, please give it a like, and if you haven't already, please subscribe, as it helps out the channel a lot. And if you want to support me in other ways besides subscribing and watch my videos, you can do so at Patreon. You could subscribe to my Patreon and get my videos early and have a chance to get a drawing for me I'll put a picture of the drawing I did last month. And yeah, so if you want to join, it only takes $1, or you could do more so you have a better chance of getting a drawing. And yeah, so with that being said, let's go over the Patreon shoutouts. So in our gold tier we have Dwayne, Fen, and Lyko. So if you want to join them, the link will be in the description. And yeah, so with that being said, I'm pretty sure I want to make Shinso a warlock, since we already have a hunter titan with Deku and Nana. But yeah, anyways, so this is gonna be the video. So yeah.